Welcome to the Diabetes Nerd Podcast. My name is Ginger VIEIRA. I have lived with type 1 diabetes for 25-ish years, and today I am joined by my amazing friend Kristin Schaner. Hi, Kristin.
How you doing, Ginger?
Good.
Good to
How are
see you.
you? You too. How many years of T1D under your belt?
38 years, so
38.
diagnosed at 10. Yep.
I am going to be 40, so I'm 39. So you basically lived with type 1 my whole
Yep.
life.
Yep, and I just turned 49 this month.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, I
All
can't
right.
really remember too much about life,
Right. Before. Me
or
neither.
yeah, it's where it kind of fades away.
Yeah, my on this podcast in a past episode, my friend BJ was asking me, "Well, what do you remember about life before?" And I was like, "Honestly, the only thing I can remember is scooping strawberry Breyers ice cream into a bowl without having to measure it." And then after, I remember now I have to use the 1 cup measuring thing from the drawer. And it's
Yeah,
like, that's it. That's all I can remember.
that's right. It is. It's hard to remember life before calculations or looking at a piece of fruit or whatever it might be, just without
Yeah.
the numbers in your
Yeah,
head.
the all consuming.
But
Well, the reason I wanted you to join me today is because you and I are both very fond of, maybe slash obsessed with inhaled insulin.
I think it's the obsessed. I think it's the
Yeah.
latter.
Like, how sad would you be if inhaled insulin was taken from you tomorrow?
Oh, I've been on it for about 2.5 years now.
Okay.
Wish it would have been a lot longer because it was FDA approved longer than
Yeah.
that.
Right.
I kind of look at the diabetes journey. I'm sure you do, and everybody does. Is there's milestones or game changers in the time you've had it, and certainly CGMs were one of those, right? No matter which one you
Yeah,
chose
for
to be
sure.
on, that huge. Tell where you are with your glucose, what direction it's going. They just keep getting better. Afrezza would be another
Yeah.
one.
A giant game changer that really like flew under the radar because I think it was FDA approved in 2017. I didn't hear about
Sounds
it
right.
until like I think I've been on it for maybe 3 years, possibly.
Yeah,
And
not soon enough.
it's no, I know. I always think back to like, oh, imagine if I'd had this during pregnancy. And it's not approved for use during pregnancy, but there are people who are using it. And I just okay, so let's go to the basics of people who've never heard of it before.
Yeah.
Apologies to those who are listening and not watching, but there is, if you go to Diabetes Nerd on YouTube, you can see all this video as well. So, really simple inhaler device. There's nothing electrical or fancy about this. It's just plastic, right? Cartridge goes in. There's a little hole at the top of the cartridge, and when you close this, it pushes the bucket under the hole so that the powder can come up and out, and it channels it to go up and out through this. So through the mouth, not the nose. Every time I talk about inhaled insulin, people say, "Oh, through the nose," and like, no. I think maybe they confuse it with baclothemy, but oh, I
Not the
couldn't.
nose. I
That
can
would
I
be
can vouch for
unbearable.
that. It's not just Ginger playing with you. It's not the nose.
Through the mouth. So you just go like this, and that's it. And that was an empty one that I just used for the second part of digesting an apple with peanut butter. But that's it. And then this is garbage, and it comes in these sheets like this. Oops, I got a lot of these like around my house now. Instead
Yeah.
of test strips, like
Oh
back in
yeah.
the day we had test strips everywhere.
Oh my
Now
gosh.
we've got
And they're
these.
everywhere.
Yeah,
In your car, your backpack,
yes,
all
in
over
my
your
kid's
closet,
backpack.
in the
Yeah.
shoe. I mean, it's amazing where you find stuff.
Yes, my kids will find them and be like, "Mama." But you know what? Here's a really cool thing about this. Obviously, there's a lot, but before I forget, literally yesterday, I'm driving with my kids. My high alarm beeps. I just passed my 160, threshold. I took my purse, which has so I carry my Afrezza around the house in this, right, like that. But when I'm out and about, I have a pocket in my purse where I just have a good amount of Afrezza stashed for going out to dinner or whatever,
Right.
right? So I can just hand my whole purse like this to my 8-year-old who's sitting behind me in the car, and I said, "Violet, load up an 8 for me, please."
Yeah.
And she does it, and she goes, "Okay," and then she knows to hand it to me the right way so that she doesn't tip it over,
Yeah.
and I take it. It's
See?
awesome.
It is awesome. Like when you're
Can you
in the
imagine? I
car and
can't
you're
hand her a
focused on
syringe.
driving, you can just do that. I was
Yeah.
told my wife the other day, we were coming home from a concert or whatever, same thing, alarm goes on, right? Can you throw a 4 in there?
Yes, exactly.
Right?
It's so easy.
Yeah.
My 10-year-old has not, I don't ask her as much. She's kind of becoming a sassy 10-year-old, so the 8-year-old knows how to do it better because she's really willing. She's like a husky. She's like, what work do you have for me now? But yeah, so it works super fast. Do you want to describe just how fast it is compared
Oh.
to
And I
the
think,
other
let's be
stuff?
clear, right? It is faster than anything on the market. So we hear about fast acting insulin. This is ultra, uber, whatever word you want to use.
Ultra rapid acting is a fancy
Really, like
term.
no other,
Yeah.
right? So it's hitting the bloodstream, right? Obviously, you're inhaling it, so it's hitting the bloodstream, I think, in less than a minute. Typically starts lowering blood sugars 12, maybe 15 minutes, and you'll see this.
You
And then
see
it's
it
in,
literally on your
yeah.
CGM turn
Oh,
the arrow.
it's
Yeah.
amazing to just watch it. When you first start, you're like, is this for real? Like, can this be
And
happening?
people will say, Kristen, they'll say, well, Fiasp is fast. What about Fiasp?
I'm not,
What do you say?
I listen, nothing against Fiat, nothing against any of the other products out there. Try Afrezza,
Yeah.
see
The
what
difference is,
happens.
Fiasp or any of the other ones, they're getting injected into fat. They've got to make their way through your body fat into your whole circulatory system.
Yes, they're
Afrezza
navigating
is
way
going,
more.
yeah,
Hmm.
right. Afrezza is going right into your lungs and into your bloodstream through
Yeah,
the cells in your lungs.
yeah. Fast in, fast out. That's it. Fast in, fast out, which is nice as well because it's not lingering around. If you don't need much insulin on board, and there are times where you will be, right?
Hmm. Right.
But this is a tool that is truly, I think, like no other when it comes to diabetes management and again that fast in, fast out concept, working more like a pancreas does.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
I still use a pretty, um, I guess it depends on what I'm eating. I still use Novolog every day. Do you?
I use Humalog every day.
Yep.
Yep,
Okay. Can you
every day.
describe to me what times of day are like you definitely take an injection over an inhalation?
Yeah, so typically in the morning, I take 1 unit of Humalog out of the gate. Um, right foot to floor,
Yeah,
head
just like
down,
me.
foot to
We're so
floor.
similar in that. Yeah.
Dawn phenomenon. If I'm going to have some coffee, that's going to spark it up. And I still have my coffee every day.
Hmm.
So it's like preventive insulin, for the most part for me, that first unit of Humalog in the morning,
And
unless I'm
why
having higher.
don't you use inhaled insulin for that?
Yeah, because that'll be two in and out. I need insulin on
Yeah.
board in the morning because I
Yeah.
might be fighting dawn phenomenon or foot to floor, that caffeine all at the same
Yeah.
time, and that might linger around for a little bit. So I'm trying to push back with that Humalog, which is going to be in my
Yeah.
system
Which is,
longer.
yeah, I mean, it's kind of the difference between eating some crackers versus the spike that we both experience in the morning is from
Hmm.
hormones, and hormones don't come and
Yeah,
go really fast. They linger,
that's
and that
right. You
that
got those
message
leaky
they're telling the
livers
liver,
waking you up. Yep, it's like
yeah,
boom,
it
boom.
it
Good
sticks
morning.
around.
Here's your
Yeah.
here's your nasty wake up call.
Yeah, I've experimented with using, so I take metformin before bed. So
Mhm.
my foot on the floor doesn't happen the way it used to. I used to spike 100 points the moment I woke up. Metformin has really calmed that down for me because it tells my liver to produce less sugar. But I fast usually until like 1 o'clock most days. So my blood sugar now doesn't really spike until about 8 o'clock. And it's my liver saying, oh my God, you still haven't eaten breakfast. I have, I now, for that type of spike, I can take a 4 unit cartridge and it addresses it. Sometimes, I don't know if maybe I'm having like a go, go, go morning. I might also take like a teeny smidge, not even a half unit of Novolog to accompany it. But
Yeah,
I can now take an Afrezza for that 8 a.m. spike. But that 8 a.m. spike sometimes doesn't happen till 9:30 or 10, right? It's not as predictable as foot on the floor. So I do
right.
have to wait and watch. And that makes Afrezza really helpful actually because, right, it's so fast that I don't have to worry about trying to get ahead of it. I can basically stop it in its
That's
tracks.
right.
Yeah.
That's right. That's the thing. You don't have to worry about stacking. because it's in and out, which is a big thing. I hear a lot of Afrezza users talk about that as a
Yeah.
benefit. You're not going to
Or
have
the
to worry
waiting.
about the crash, the waiting, or the
Waiting. Yeah. It's,
stacking scaries. It's
yeah.
all of that.
Do you, okay, so one of the things I hear the most from people is, well, I'd love to try it, but I'm so sensitive to insulin. There's no way I could use a 4-unit cartridge. How do you explain that to people?
Get over it.
That's
No,
one way.
no, that's horrible. Um,
I like it.
but we laugh a lot.
You work
So
in sales? That's great.
we laugh a lot. So quite the opposite for me, and I'll get back to the sensitive, but I was and am continue to be very insulin resistant. Midlife, a lot of hormonal stuff going on all the
Right.
time,
Being a woman.
right? Yeah, being a woman, very frustrating. And I think that's when I started to do even more research. I wasn't happy where I was with my endocrinologist at the time. Like there's got to be some other tools going on here, and
Can I ask
luckily,
you,
yeah.
just to give listeners context, because everyone's idea of insulin resistant is different, right? I mean, there's insulin
Yeah,
resistant where someone needs 200 units of long
yeah,
acting a day, and there's insulin
yeah.
resistant where you're used to needing 15 and now you're up at 20, and that's very frustrating. How much background insulin does your body need in
Oh,
a day?
so my basal is typically 13 units.
Thank you, which
Okay.
is relatively very low,
Mm-hmm.
right? And that's
Yeah,
mine's about 10, so we're very
yeah.
similar.
Very low.
So the real message there, though, is right. You're not for a 4-unit cartridge is not 4 units of
Correct.
Humalog or Novolog. You
Correct.
can make it work.
Yeah,
It's not the same math. It's
correct.
not the same drug.
You,
It's like a
you,
totally
you
different
have to
animal.
drop that calculation completely. It is. It's a different mindset. It's a big learning curve, but I don't know, it kind of sinks in fairly quickly if you diabetes is all about trial and error, right? So if you can go into the things with that mindset and give yourself grace and know that it's going to take a little time and get perfection out of the way.
Mm,
Get perfection out of the way and
yeah.
try to learn just what a 4 unit of Afrezza will do for you, right? That's how I started. I was like, let me see how much this is going to take me down. Let me see how much this is going to take me down.
Did you find, I've heard some people say, and I experienced this too, that in the first 3 months, and I don't really know why, I've heard some theories, but I don't know why. In the first 3 months, I was more sensitive to Afrezza. Like a 4 felt like a lot, and I didn't use eights at all. And now I use a lot of eights, and I use fewer 4s.
I think I've had a similar experience overall. Yeah. And I wonder, I don't know, was that our bodies just kind of changing?
And
Again,
like,
I hate,
holy shit, what is this? Like, I don't,
yeah,
yeah,
like,
I don't know.
whoa, what are we doing here? This thing's
Yeah,
working in,
yeah,
12 minutes and in and out. And yeah, I don't know. Or is it some of the learnings along the way and now we're seeing what we really need over time? I think I
yeah.
was also afraid at the beginning to hit the 8.
Me too.
Right? It was like, oh my goodness, I'm seeing what the 4 does.
Yeah. And I
Did
drove
I
my
do
doctor
this?
crazy too, actually,
Yeah.
because I was like, they'd given me a prescription of 4s and 8s. And I was like, oh,
Hmm.
I only need 4s. The 8s are too much. And then after a few months, I was like, oh, wait, I need 8s too. And I
Yeah.
have had a
Yeah.
prescription with the 12s, which is great, but I would use them like for bigger carb meals or something. And I just I don't need them enough. I can make do with just the 4s and 8s. I'd rather have more 4s and 8s than a whole bunch of 12s in my
Ditto.
prescription, right?
Exactly. The 12s were it was so rare that they would kind of go to waste. Like, that's the nice thing. You can
Yeah,
take a 4 and an 8 and still get, you're still
right.
getting the amount you need.
Yeah.
But I find that getting it right at the beginning is really important. So don't hesitate to take the 8 if you need the 8.
Mm,
Right. I think again there was that. I think it's more effective when you get it right at the beginning
mhm.
versus trying to. I mean, you can always just keep taking more. That's true, but don't be afraid to go up to an 8 if you
Yeah.
if you need that to cover. And it is stuff you have to learn along the way. But sometimes I'm like, I'm going to stick with the four. You know, I'm going to stick with the four. Kind of
And
have to
there's,
wait
I mean,
that
there's other
out. If I need to
factors
wait, I
too.
need to
Like,
wait. And it's
yeah,
okay to need
yeah,
to wait.
yeah.
That's what
Like
it's there
one
for.
thing I had to learn was like if I'm correcting a high at 3 a.m. because I eat right before bed, so it's very possible that I might need more insulin in the middle of the night.
Yeah.
And if I'm correcting a high at 4 a.m., that four hits me so much more than during the day, but it's not because the four is different. It's because my long acting insulin is kicking in and
Yes.
peaking at 3 a.m. So I've corrected a 250 with an
Hmm.
8 at 4 or 3 a.m. and I crash hard. And it's not because the Afrezza is different, it's because I have another variable at play. But I could
Exactly.
correct a 250 at 4 p.m. and an 8 might be appropriate, or I might need a 4 if I'm about to go on a dog walk. Like there is,
Mhm.
even though it looks unlimited, I mean, even though it looks, the flexibility looks limited with this 4, 8, 12, there's a lot of flexibility in it because it's so like gentle of how it hits kind of.
It does. I
It's
think
hard
that
to
if time
describe.
is on your side, yeah, as you just it like anything else with managing this crazy disease, it's the trial and error experience over time. We know our bodies better than anybody else does, that's for sure.
Yeah.
You're
Right.
tuned to your body, right? So I know that I'm typically going to be using more Afrezza and more Humalog and bumping up my basal when I'm 8 to 10 days out from my period, right? How do I know
Okay.
that? Because that's when my hormones are going nuts as
You've got
part of
that
that
dialed in as
luteal
8 to
phase,
10
right?
days before. That's
About eight
very
to 10
specific.
days. It can
Yeah.
vary a little bit, but as of now, and I knock on wood because this could change next
Next
go
month.
around.
Yeah.
But that's where I'm tracking.
Okay.
So I have those expectations in
Yeah.
mind. But like you said, an exercise day, I do find my Afrezza works with exercise. It's working that much
You're more
faster, that
sensitive.
much
Yeah.
more efficiently with
Do
some
you, what's
exercise. And I've
another
heard that from a
time?
lot of people too. The exercise
Okay.
definitely plays an impact.
Yeah. I mean, we're more sensitive to all insulin, so you just have
Yep,
to be more, I
that's
need
right.
less. Like, I mean, if I, another time a day I take an injection is if I'm eating my apple and peanut butter for lunch, which is what I eat for lunch most days. And I choose really big apples, like the biggest Honey Crisp apple is basically the sweetest apple in the pile. You know what I mean? And people are like, well, there's less sugar in the Macintosh. I'm like, good for the Macintosh. I don't
You're
want that.
right, but I'm
But
not
I
quite there.
definitely, yeah.
Yeah.
And then I'm eating, I don't measure my peanut butter. I eat as much of it as I want. My friend Tara's always like, oh my God. But it's freshly ground peanuts. It, I need more insulin for this meal than I would think. And if I didn't jump rope that morning, I need twice as much insulin for this meal than when I did. But that's a side note on exercise. But so I always take an 8 when I start eating the apple and peanut butter to hit that early digestion, the breakdown of the apple. But I know that it takes my body like 3, 4 hours to digest this meal. So
Yep.
I also take, depending on where I'm at and exercise levels that day, 2 to 3 units of Novolog with the apple meal. And then an hour or two later, if I'm just a little more resistant that day, and honestly, I'm not as dialed into my 8 to 10 days out from period week, it could be that some weeks I need another 8 or 4 just to like keep me under 160 while this starts doing its
Hmm.
job. And the 8 I originally took is petering out. So it's like
Yes.
this little game, but because this is so fast, it's so flexible, you can be like, I'm gonna take a little more.
Hmm. You can. And I think it's getting over that hump when you start and you have some time in to say, yep, it's okay. I can do that.
Yeah.
It really is going to leave the system. Like the double arrow down doesn't scare me nearly as much with the Frezza,
Yeah.
right? I see
Describe
it.
that.
I don't like it, but I can deal
Yeah.
with it in a much more just calm way.
Why? Can you explain to people why? What's so different?
Yeah, because I know that insulin is leaving my body. That Afrezza is leaving the body. I can count on it. You can see it happening. It's quick. It's not like, oh my gosh, if you'd have, Novolog or Humalog on board, and the tail is way longer, right? And so that
Crazy
low,
long. I mean, Novolog is peaking. That's when you might see the double down arrows if you didn't
yeah.
get the dose quite
And it
right.
just feels like that low might hang on and hang on and hang on, and I just want to keep eating. It's just like everything looks good. You could
Yeah,
eat
it makes
wood,
you want to keep,
right?
yes, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And
And so,
so I don't know if we described the fours. They say 90 minutes, it stays in your system. Personally, I watch it impact my blood sugar for an hour. If I was going to go for a walk after an hour, I'd still be aware I've got some of this on board,
yeah,
but it wouldn't be like having a unit of Novolog on board.
right.
And then the eights, they say up to 3 hours, but it's really those first 2 hours that I worry about it the most or think about it the most. That this is on board
Same,
in my system.
same,
Okay, same for you.
same for me. And I do the same thing. Typically, I'm in a Afrezza combination with Humalog for dinner
Okay.
because I need some insulin on board going into the nighttime usually.
Okay.
So, and of course, everything depends on the meal, right? But obviously, is it higher fat, more protein, stuff that's going to take longer to break down
Yeah.
over time. But I'm rarely just a Afrezza for dinner because I need insulin on board taking me into the nighttime.
Me too.
I'm in a
Yeah,
better
because it's
place.
Afrezza's out too soon.
Yep.
A meal I'm
Yep.
actually obsessed with right now. There's this gluten-free bakery here in Vermont. The bread, you would never know. It looks glutinous. It's beautiful. It's like they make an olive loaf and a fig thing
Ooh.
and a country loaf and a sourdough. So I got obsessed with this. It's like my hope is that there's no one else I have to feed for dinner so that I can just have cheese and bread. And I put goat cheese on, and then I put thick layers of brie, and then I put fig spread on top of that. And I'll have like two or three of these slices. And I definitely need a combo of a
Sounds
Frezza
really
and
good.
Novolog for that. It took me a little while to figure out how I have to treat it like I just ate a big slice of like 7 layer chocolate cake in
Right.
terms of how long it digests.
But isn't it nice to see that quick reaction, right? And
Yeah.
control, and then you figure out
Yeah.
what you need in addition to that,
Yeah.
right? The
And even
tool.
though I have this on board, I can keep pegging away at it with a Frezza
Exactly.
to keep under my target.
Yeah, that's the best part is it's a tool. It fits in. It's just another puzzle piece.
Yeah. Well,
And
and
you
you
get
brought
it.
up too
Yeah.
the quick. We don't pre-bolus. When's the last
Yep.
time you thought about, oh, I'm going to be eating in 20
I
minutes.
mean,
I need to get my insulin on board.
how nice is it to show up at a restaurant too and not be think I might order this or I might order this is likely what I'll order what I want.
Yeah.
I got
I
this.
mean, I think it's been so long since you and I had to pre-bolus insulin that we've forgotten how tedious
I
it is
know.
because
I
you
know.
just don't even have to.
It's more flexibility, more control, more calm when you're double arrows down or just overall, I think the quality of life barometer has gone up with the Frezza, even from
Yeah,
just a
for sure.
portability standpoint. Like you just showed, you carry this everywhere, throw it, toss some over here, have some over here.
Yeah.
You're good to
Yeah, I
go.
have one up next to my bed like this, and I know you're supposed to keep it in the refrigerator if you're not using it, but it's pretty resilient. I just
It is.
a couple times I've looked in my case on my nightstand and it hasn't been it's like, oh, I used it up, and I really don't like getting out of bed in the middle of the night. Like I'd rather lay there and be mad that my blood sugar is 180 and my insulin's downstairs than get
Right.
up and go get the insulin.
Yep.
So I really like having the extra insulin right there. I also have like 17 different types of snacks if I do have a low in the middle of the night. And I haven't touched many of them in months, but I know they're there and I don't have to get up and go downstairs. That's really all that matters.
You got the bedside buffet.
I've got a thing of they're like a really healthy version of salt and vinegar Pringles, and that's not really for treating lows. That's just like if I'm hungry. But if I can, my worst time for lows is when that long acting insulin for me is peaking at 3 a.m. And if I have too much insulin on board from a Novolog injection, and I was trying to dose for something like pizza, high carb, and I
Right.
overdid it, I can't treat with 5 Sour Patch Kids. I need a gluten-free
Yeah.
raspberry fig bar to actually get back up and stay up.
Yeah.
So I've got a whole box of gluten-free raspberry fig bars, like right here behind my head on my nightstand. But yeah, if you looked at my bed, you'd be like, you've got some
Maybe
overnight
that
eating
should be the
issues.
backdrop in one of these videos,
Yes,
just
that's a
kind of
good
walk
idea.
us through the assortment of.
That's a good idea. Yeah. Um, let's talk about getting Afrezza because it's not as easy as it should be.
Yeah. It's, this is the whole awareness and access game,
Yeah.
which
And
takes
self-advocacy to the max.
self-advocacy to the max,
The doctor that says no, that's kind of the
doctor
first
that says
hurdle.
no, doctor that's completely unaware, doctor that is like,
Says
I
it
see
only works for
some
type 2s.
information out there and it's false, right? I
Yeah.
had an experience with that, like
Yeah.
coming up with some kind of bullshit lung cancer, you
Yes. Oh,
know,
it causes lung cancer. No.
something,
Two people in the study developed
you
lung
know,
cancer. They were both smokers.
yeah. I
Yeah.
shared the white paper with that endocrinologist, and then I shared my A1C results for about a year after I started Afrezza. I was a little bitter,
Is
that
that still your endocrinologist?
no, no, this was that was I think
Yeah, you fired that person, if I recall.
I fired that person. With all due respect, I needed a partner in my
I
care.
wonder if their
Someone more
ego allowed
progressive
that.
and open-minded and researched, right? And so it was like, nope, this is going to be the time that we say goodbye. I'm glad.
All right,
And
so
then
that's how Kristen handled
they were very
obstacle
nice
number
messages,
one.
Ginger.
Yeah,
They were very nice messages I was sending in the portal with
I
my
remember.
A1C results. But I wanted to nudge enough to maybe open her mind to consider this for patients, right?
Yeah,
Yeah,
right.
that's the
Why
part. I
not? I
wanted
just don't
her
get
to
it.
open her mind
Yeah,
and say, look at the, and again,
yeah.
I'm your N of one maybe, but I'm not an N of one. There's many more me's out there, and maybe this could be another tool that you could offer your patients. This is,
Yeah. I mean,
quality of
you're
life
a
that you can
standard
offer
type one. Like
patients.
what? There's
Yeah.
nothing odd about you.
So
That,
it's like, come
yeah,
on,
yeah.
let's embrace this and see who it's right for, and
It's so
um,
crazy, the reluctance. It's very strange
yeah,
because
yeah.
what we
So
all
I think
complain
there's those,
about.
right? Those are definite
Yeah. I mean,
roadblocks.
what we
Getting
complain about
insulin.
is that insulin's not fast enough and we're tired of all the injections and the holes in the infusion sites.
Yep.
This kind of solves both. But all right, so the doctor
Right.
that says no, the doctor says it causes lung cancer, says it's for type 2, not type 1. These are all false. The doctor says it's impossible to get it covered by insurance. It
Right.
is possible, but you have to go about it in exactly specific ways. And I have this detailed in a YouTube video.
Yes.
Your doctor has to write in your prior authorization paperwork that you have, I always say it wrong, hypolipoprotrophy. Hypolipoprotrophy is something we probably all have, but we never talk about because we just know, oh, my skin is shot because I've been putting insulin
Yeah.
into it with sharp needles for 20 years
Yep.
or 38 years. And hypolipoprotrophy is like the hardening of your fat tissue after lots and lots of injections of insulin. So if your doctor says she's got hypolipoprotrophy, she's had post-meal highs and injection fatigue, that's what has got to go in your prior
You've got it
authorization.
down. That's yep, must
You just
have.
they just have to say it. Like
Just script. Send this. Here's the
yeah,
script. This is what we need.
yeah,
This is what it has to say,
yeah, and
and
and then it should get approved.
you should get approved. So
I don't
yeah,
know
it
if
does
I've
take
seen you.
takes time.
Have I seen you since my insurance changed and my doctor had to start that whole approval process over. And my primary care did not, even though he's done this before, he still did not understand the importance of those three details. So prior auth got rejected, then the appeal got rejected, and he didn't do the appeal with the notes I said of like, please make sure it says this, this, and this. And I
Right.
got a letter saying, you don't have any signs of hypolipoprotrophy, blah, blah, blah. I was like, or lipohypertrophy. And I was like, ugh. And I had
Right.
to harass basically the CEO of the insurance company to get them to reopen my file. And it was a very sweet harassment. I wrote a letter saying, I've taken 567,000 injections in my lifetime.
Yeah.
Imagine how damaged my skin is. Imagine if there was something that could be done to lessen this burden for the next 25 years. Oh, wait, there is.
Yeah.
But you guys won't let me have it. So, anyway, they reopened my file and let them send in the proper paperwork. So, it's a game.
It is.
Yeah.
And I think real stories from the diabetes trenches. I think the people that are actually deciding on these, approvals or denials need a lot more of that.
I'm not sure they're
More
even
like,
people.
but
I don't think they're
with the
people
right
that are,
doctor, the
I
right
think it's a
provider
system.
is critical as well.
Yeah.
The person has to go to bat for you and do it in the right way. There are just so many, hoops to jump through at times. Sadly, that's the state of healthcare
Yeah.
overall.
Yeah.
And you need your person to be right there with you. And it's not always easy to find that person. And when you do, you're blessed. And we're all deserving of it, but it's just not that simple. And when you have it, you have it good.
Yeah.
Because they're
Yeah.
right there with you. They've been through it before. They're like, listen, we already know what we're going to put down. We're going to get this through. We've done this before. I'm willing to appeal if it doesn't. Don't worry, prior authorization, we've got that covered. Our department
Yeah.
knows how to handle. That's the ideal scenario. But self-advocacy is where it all begins and oftentimes where it ends as well.
Yeah, and I mean, like you demonstrated, if your doctor says no, it's like, wait a minute, doctor, you work for me. This is a medication that is FDA approved for people with
Yeah.
type 1. I want to try it,
Yeah.
period. Like,
Yes. And then
what
I
do you
heard,
mean?
oh, I'm going to have to do these lung tests and everything. I'm like, and why wouldn't you?
Yeah,
If this
I
is,
didn't have to do the lung test,
you know,
but like, who cares if you do?
if
To
I
get a
have to
medication
blow
that's
out
gonna
to
be
check my lung capacity, blow my
a big
birthday
deal.
candles out, whatever,
Yeah,
happy to. But can't you
yeah,
do that? It literally took like seconds, in the office. So it seemed, there was the other the other things that maybe some providers see as burdens and maybe
or
administrative
excuses,
burdens, and I'm like,
excuses.
no, we're talking about my life and my quality of life again. So
Yeah,
like, that's how we work together,
yeah.
you know.
Yeah, it's frustrating. And it is going to be FDA approved for kids soon. Like, I think they're planning to bring it to market. I think, don't quote me on this, but it might even already be FDA approved, but they're bringing it to market later this year. Something like that. It is coming for use in
Yeah, it
children.
seems like it's right there as
Yeah,
the
it's
trials
right
have
around the
now
corner.
proven out, and
Yep.
it's
Yeah.
just great news.
It's pretty awesome and it's so underappreciated. I don't know why it's not all over the place. I wish we just all could have it as like, oh, you have type 1, here's your injectable insulin, here's your inhaled insulin. These are the tools you need to compensate for what your pancreas is no longer going to do for you.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right.
Okay, well, I mean, I hope that you and I never have it taken away from us. I would be devastated,
Yeah.
truly. It would
Yeah.
completely change the flexibility of my day to day.
100%. 100%. Let's hope the tide, continues to go our way, and then the pediatric front, that should bring in a whole different population and parents
Yeah.
tuning in, and
Yeah.
and that we get, I think, more of a movement. I think we need more of a movement around inhaled insulin. It's not one faction of that. It's everybody. It's the endo community. It's the patients. It's the insurance provider. Right. It takes
Yeah.
sort of the whole ecosystem to push this
Yeah.
forward.
And I mean, I know a couple people who've used it and they're like, yeah, not for me. One, his lungs, or he was coughing. He just coughed too much and he didn't like it.
Yeah.
I coughed more in the first month, but I, and then now if I cough, it's either because I wasn't like paying attention and I didn't relax my throat when I did the inhalation, or if I have a sore throat, like when I had COVID, using inhaled insulin was not fun because my throat was just too sore.
Right.
But do you find that you consciously are like, okay, like you've learned how to kind of relax, right? It's a skill that you figure out after the
You
first few
do.
months.
You
Yeah,
do. And you realize you don't have to drag on it for
right.
you,
Yeah. I got a great tip from a CDE friend. She said take a sip of water before and after if you can, because it just kind of,
Yes.
coats your throat so that it goes in there easier.
And like anything too, with I think any kind of healthcare, you learn so much from other patients, the people that are using it. It's like there's playbooks out there for everything where, yes, every case is different, every patient is different, but there's some really good info that you can learn from other people that haven't. I mean, that's where I've gone to the well on
I learned about it from interviewing fellow T1Ds for an article,
Yep.
and I was like, all right, I need to give this a try because this woman's obsessed with it. And
Yeah,
yeah.
that's
And I
it.
know a guy who he's a carnivore, so he's not eating any carbohydrates. Afrezza is it's like his best friend. He posts about it every day.
Every day.
Yeah.
And you learn about how to fight insurance on these blogs. And I just
Yeah.
think you can pull so much in no matter which thing. If you're asking about something clinically, financially, insurance wise, there's so much insight
Yeah.
from the community.
Yeah.
That
Yeah.
is,
If
that
you're
is
listening
key.
and you want to find these resources, so there's a Facebook group. I think it's just
I think
inhaled
it's just a
insulin.
fret. Is
Is it
it?
Afrezza?
I think
Let
so.
me look it up. It's one group and it's let's see. Is it inhaled
I think
insulin
that's
or
where I
Afrezza?
learned the most initially.
Yeah,
Somehow
Afrezza.
I
It's
was
called
guided to
Afrezza.
that page, and man, I was like, I have got to try this stuff.
Yep.
Now I need to find a doctor that's willing to work with me, or a provider that is. And then I went to the Afrezza website and started to look for providers in my area that were known to prescribe. And that's where I found my endo.
Cool. Okay. So
Yeah.
the
And then that
Afrezza
turned into other
website
good
will help
things.
you
Yeah.
find a doctor that actually is open-minded and understands new stuff.
I
Yeah.
think it's a starting point, right? It's a starting, but you can always ask people on those pages too. Hey, I'm in
Yeah.
this area. Do any of you have any resources or know doctors or other providers that are
Yeah.
prescribers?
Yeah. And price-wise, I don't know about you, but for me, I'm on pretty standard insurance through the health network, whatever, because I'm self-employed.
Yep.
I had some guy, it's very reasonable. I mean, I do like 3 months supply at a time. So it was like, I don't know, $80 or something. I don't
It
remember.
is.
Yeah.
And you look,
And
there's a manufacturer's card, that you can
yes.
use. There's a Freza Assist for some people who qualify that way. It's, the key to this is keep pushing, advocate, know the ins and outs of your insurance, and use the resources that
Yeah.
they're giving you.
Yeah,
There's
and I
some
mean,
way to make it
some
work.
guy was harassing me on LinkedIn. He's like, it says the list price is so and so $1,000. And I'm like, that's the list price is not what patients pay. That's ridiculous. And
Right.
oh, I don't believe you. And I'm like, I don't. Okay, good luck in life then. Conversation is complete. But yeah, people are weird.
Don't
But
go with those list prices, man. You gotta
look at the list price of everything else you take. You're not paying that for all your other medicine.
exactly.
But if you want a reason to not have access to this and not even
Yeah,
try it, then I guess don't believe me. Don't
exactly.
try. Yeah. Kristen, thank you for sharing your inhaled insulin Afrezza passion. I mean, it's so life changing, and I don't know why everybody doesn't want to try it. It's awesome.
Yeah, it is incredible. Incredible. Thanks for having me on. I'm always willing to get the megaphone when it comes to Afrezza, that's for sure.
Yeah, I think we're gonna have to have you pop back on for let's talk about perimenopause and let's talk about microdosing GLP-1s.
Yep.
Yeah.
I'd love to come back. But
Okay.
I will leave everybody with this again. Not through the nose. You don't
Not
inhale.
Ooh, that'll really hurt. Although I will say, when I have a cold in the winter, or like in my nostrils are wet from like having sniffles, and I take an inhalation through my mouth, sometimes my nose hairs are white because of the exhale. Does that happen to you? And
Yeah.
yeah, and so I got in a habit early on of going like
Sometimes that,
that.
yeah,
I
that
don't have
powder
white
kind of
nose hairs. Yeah,
flies a little bit.
yeah. Anyway,
It's
all
good
right.
seeing. Magic.
Thank you, Kristen. Not through the nose. Motto of the day.
That's right.